We're here with Greenville College football's head coach, Ordell Walker. Coach Walker, what did you guys talk about in the team meeting this week?
TJ, we talked about just updates in the program. So, this past weekend, we had a recruit weekend, and several of the guys, once again, after, spending time with our team, they want to be a part of the program. So, guys are positive and, made verbal commitments, things like that. So, we're excited about that. We also had So You Think You Can Cook competition. And so each of our EMAP groups has some representatives and chefs that cook some dishes that the coaches and wives got to taste. And we have some talented cooks in the program. So the 5-Star Terminators won that with honey glazed chicken and tequila macaroni macaroni and cheese dish. So it was very, very tasty.
Good. What did you guys talk about? Any leadership principles this week?
Definitely. I mean, that's the main focus of our meetings. Certainly less about football and more about leadership. So this leadership principle, as you can see behind me, is called the velvet covered brick. And so when you think about velvet, you think about maybe a smooth texture, soft. And so as a leader, we have to have some sensitivity to ourselves, some tenderness, some softness, some caring kind of aspect of ourselves. But at the same time, when you think about a brick, it's hard, it's tough, it's strong. And from the leadership principle from that is we have to be strong in our principles, and we want to be principle-centered on the inside. But there's a balance, and so as a leader, you can't be so principle-centered and strong and tough that you dominate people, and at the same time, you can't be so soft and caring, kind of velvety that you can't have tough conversations, you can't discipline and things like that. So there's a balance, and we certainly know leaders who've been imbalanced, and we want to be guys who have that correct balance.
How does this principle apply to confrontation?
I think that's one of the biggest ways to have confrontation is never easy, but how do you do it in such a way that it works out best? And so a leader or a person who has this balance between velvet and brick is a person that's going to be able to do that. And so some concepts that we talked about with the team is how to confrontate, how to confrontate somebody. And I think some of the big things is one, working through or progressing through your own anger. I don't want to respond to issues right away. I need to take some time, but I don't want to take too much time that that I just sweep the problem under the rug. So I think the second thing is we have to fill people up and affirm people. So it's like Coach Rody talking about the hot air balloon last week. We want to fill them up, and that's how we want to start that conversation with positive. But then you got to work through the issues, and you got to talk from a humble perspective of here's where I'm struggling. So we certainly don't want to attack people when we have to confront. We want to try to work it out together. So hey, I'm struggling with this issue. Can you help me with it? And you're trying to gain different perspective. You admit that you don't know everything. Here's kind of the way I see it, but am I reading the situation accurately? And so we want to come off with a sense of humility, and that's that velvet part. People respond to that a lot better if you come off brick, tough, strong, and attack. And so, but you certainly want to state the principle that's at hand. So if there's some confrontation, there is a principle that's been violated, and we want to address that principle. And that's certainly being kind of a brick, so to speak. And then get feedback and end with affirmation again, resolution and affirmation. So where do we go from here? You always want to have a plan, and then lastly, again, affirm, fill people up, the hot air balloon principle. So I think if you got that good balance between velvety and brick, hard and soft, sensitive and strong, you have a chance to have confrontation, keep restoration, keep relationships good with that style of confrontation.
Is there a biblical example of this?
I think, we talked about John 8, Christ, when the Pharisees brought the woman who were caught in adultery. I think that's a great example of this, these two concepts at play. The woman was certainly in the wrong. She got caught in adultery. And the Pharisees just like, hey, the law of Moses said we need to stone her. What do you say? And that's very hard. It's very brick. And Jesus did not respond right away. He actually ignored them, kind of wrote in the dirt. I think he was kind of showing a little velvet, kind of maybe working through his own emotions, not responding right away, gather his thoughts and things like that. The scripture doesn't say, but he certainly didn't jump right in. And then his response was basically, whoever hasn't sinned, go ahead and throw the first stone. And so, that was kind of a brick kind of mentality with those Pharisees, and nobody obviously responded. They're all left. And when he talked to the woman, he said, where's your accusers? Anybody's left? And she's like, nobody left. And then he said, well, then I don't condemn you either. So, again, he was velvet. There was a principle there, but he didn't come off really. He chose to show his tender, sensitive, soft side. But the last point was, he said, go and sin no more. And so he never changed the principle. What she did was obviously wrong, but he had this great balance. I can be tender and caring and real and forgiving, but the principle still stands, go and sin no more. So I think Jesus is obviously the greatest leader, and he provided a great example of how that kind of played out.
Thanks, Coach Walk.
Thanks.